Hey guys, so I wanted to give a quick commentary about a video that I did in April of 2020, kind of as the pandemic was beginning to unfold, and I want to talk about some of the things that I think I got wrong. I just really missed the boat on. It was early on, so I was probably running my mouth a little more than I needed to, but some things I got wrong, and there were some points in there that I think that we got right. So I want to hear your feedback and your comments, and let me know, in these almost 2 years, what's right, what's wrong, and then kind of what we've seen play out and unfold. So here goes.
So let's talk about the coronavirus. So everybody's going to get the coronavirus, and that's the good news. And I'll explain how that's good news in a moment. But everyone's going to be exposed to COVID-19. It's just a matter of time. If you look at all the reports and all the graphs and all the numbers, literally at some point we're all going to be exposed to this virus. And that's the good news. And it's the good news because we don't have to live in fear. We don't have to live in constant anxiety that if we don't wash our hands or if we touch the wrong surface or if the wrong person walks past us and they sneeze, that they're going to give us this virus. We're all going to get it, and that's the good news. So here's the deal. I understand the flattening of the curve.
All right, so I think it's played out that one's probably been true, is that we're all going to get the virus. We're all going to be exposed to it. It's so virulent. It's so transmissible. It's so widespread. It's on every corner of the earth. There's just really no getting away from it. So viruses are assigned what's called an R0 figure. So it's essentially how contagious the virus is. So the common flu has an R0 value of about 1 to 3. So that means for every flu case, they're going to transmit it to about 1 to 3 other people. The Delta variant had about an R0 value of about 4 to 5. And then this Omicron variant has an R0 value of anywhere from 10 to 15. So it's more than the measles. So it's literally like trying to avoid pollen, like I said. So we're all going to get it. We're all going to be exposed. I think that one probably did play itself out.
Totally get that. That makes logical sense. You don't want to overwhelm the healthcare system, so we wear masks and we do social distancing and we hand sanitize every possible surface on the planet. So I understand that, but that's not what most people are doing those things for. So most people aren't hand sanitizing to protect Vanderbilt, and most people aren't hand sanitizing to prove wearing masks and keeping their distance from people so they protect St. Thomas healthcare system. They're doing it because they don't want to catch a bug and they don't want to catch a germ. Here's the deal.
That's the thing. We're all so terrified. We become so germophobic, especially in the first year or so of that pandemic. We were terrified to be around anybody that coughed or sneezed or even looked remotely like they were sick. I mean, it was just this germophobic fear panic that was led by the fear porn that was being poured into us from the mainstream media. I mean, it's clickbait at its best. I mean, that was their job, is to keep you tuned in to their network, and they would just continually propagate that message of fear. They had the ticker on the screen with the deaths and the cases, and it was just a constant, a bombardment of fear mongering. So I was a little sarcastic about the constant hand sanitizing, and but there was a point at which hand sanitizer, you couldn't find it anywhere. We were literally couldn't find masks. Everybody was freaked out. People were microwaving their packages from Amazon because we thought, we could catch it by touching a surface. But now we know that respiratory viruses don't have objects, are not vectors of transmission with respiratory viruses. So that one, I think, turned out to be true.
You're all going to catch the germ. You're all going to be exposed, and a lot of us have already been exposed. It's what's going to happen. It's like trying to avoid the common cold virus or trying to shelter in place to not get exposed to pollen. It's going to happen, and that's the good news, and you don't have to live in fear. So the other thing with this is we got to remember our bodies are designed for this. We are designed to fight viruses. We're designed to fight bugs. We're designed to have an immune system that's capable of surviving this treacherous place we live in.
And that's true too. We're designed to fight viruses. We've been fighting viruses and bugs and germs for millennia. And that's just, we have an immune system that recognizes the pathogen. It mounts an immune response and creates a memory. And then the next time it rolls around, then it's milder or it doesn't affect us at all. So that I think was true. and here's what we know. We know that the people that got the sickest from the virus were people that were already the sickest to begin with. And of course there's outliers. I mean, everybody knows that, there's people on the fringes where it's the 42-year-old that ran marathons that died of COVID. And they love to highlight those cases. But by and large, the vast majority of the deaths were people that were elderly, or that people that had 4 or more comorbidities: cancer, heart disease, diabetes, severe hypertension, autoimmune disorders that were uncontrolled. So that has played out.
Been shaking hands for 2,500 years. It's a cultural phenomenon, a commonplace practice. We've been doing it, and we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep hugging each other. We're going to keep doing those things because that's what we are as humans.
And I know for this human, I'm going to keep hugging. If you come to our office, you see lots of hugging going on. It's just part of what we do. We care. We love people, and I don't care what the virus is. I'm going to keep shaking hands and giving high fives and hugging. So that's going to continue in my office regardless of the virus.
You're social distancing and you're hand sanitizing and wearing a mask because you want to protect the healthcare system and healthcare. God bless you. But the healthcare system is not overrun. If you're not in Manhattan, if you're not in New Jersey, the healthcare system is doing just fine. We've given them enough.
That's the thing we don't realize as well, is hospitals are designed to operate pretty near capacity. That's how the business model is set up. Now, a lot of nurses are quitting the profession. Various reasons for that. Number one, the vaccine mandates drove a lot of nurses and staff out of the profession. And there's other reasons. They're being overwhelmed and they're being underpaid. And now they're, treated. They went from heroes to zeros in a matter of a year. It's tragic what we've done to the doctors, nurses, and staff that are on the front lines. But the reality is the healthcare systems are almost in every case were not overrun. I remember Vanderbilt set up a tent city, basically a military-style field hospital in the parking garage that was never used. They never had one bed that was used. But again, it was back to that fear and the panic and the what if.
Time to prepare, and flattening the curve doesn't prevent people from getting sick. It just keeps people from getting sick at the same time. So the people that are going to get sick are still going to get sick. The people that are going to get exposed are still going to get exposed. And the people that are going to die, sadly, this is tragic, the people that are going to die are still going to die. And there's nothing...
Now, I got a lot of heat about that statement because... it probably sounded a little insensitive. I feel a little guilt about, the way that came across. But, by and large, the people that were going to get sick did, and the people that were going to die did. Now, there's ways we could have prevented that, like not sticking COVID cases back into the nursing home. There were some common sense approaches we could have taken early on. But, yes, I do apologize. That was a bit insensitive.
Flattening the curve that prevents people from dying. They're going to die. It's just going to happen at a slower pace. So here's the deal. They're worried about this second wave. The reason you have a second wave is because you shelter in place, because you don't develop herd immunity. We need to do what Sweden is doing. They're doing social responsibility, not quarantine and not shelter in place and canceling schools. They're letting people get out and get into the community.
Big mistake, canceling schools, keeping kids at home. We know that the rates of mental health issues and learning disabilities and delayed speech and anxiety and suicide and drug overdoses, like the rates of all of those increased drastically because of these draconian measures where we've tried to keep our kids pinned down at home is just insane then and even more insane now. And then the masking of 5-year-olds for what really essentially boils down to a cold for our kids. Our kids are not affected by this, not in nearly the way that sick older adults, and we've not age stratified the risk when it comes to this virus. We've had these blanket recommendations and mandates that apply the same to a 96-year-old person with cancer as it does to a healthy 5-year-old that's in a kindergarten class, and it's just insanity. And still what bothers me is we've not been able to distinguish between dying with COVID or dying of COVID. And there's a whole back end to that. But we don't have the capacity to figure out the data that if you're in a motorcycle accident and you tested positive with COVID, that you're not supposed to be counted as a COVID death. So there was a lot of that happened that, I think in some ways still continues to happen because of the incentivization of it. So that was one key point.
And get exposed so we can get past this thing. Protect the elderly, protect people in assisted living homes.
Which we did not. We did not protect people in assisted living homes. And if we looked at Sweden, because Sweden had it right from the beginning, they did social responsibility, and they've gotten through this far better than we have. And their data is readily available if you want to look that up. But that was one big misstep, is we took the information coming from communist China, and then we adopted their communist Chinese approach to dealing with the virus. Just insanity when you look back at that.
Protect the people that are immune compromised and the healthcare workers. I'm all for that. But the rest of us have to get this thing and get past it. We can't wait on a vaccine. The mumps vaccine was the fastest developed vaccine in history, and it took 4 years to get that vaccine to market. And we think by September we're somehow going to have a vaccine that's going to save us all.
So I was wrong about that. We did have a vaccine. It wasn't September. It was more like January of 2021. But the vaccine did have an impact. It seemed to have a measurable impact on hospitalizations, severe disease, and death in the people that were the most vulnerable. Now, you could argue that it had very little to any effect on the younger, healthier population. And that's why my family never got it or never will get it. And we still don't know the long-term safety outcomes. And that's the point I'm going to talk about here.
If they get one by September, I'd be the last one to ever get it, because there's not going to be safety studies. There's not going to be adequate data to determine whether it works, or if it does work, is it going to cause more harm than the actual virus itself? So we got to wait.
Yeah, so we still don't have long-term safety studies. They stopped the phase 2 trials. They just mass-produced, mass-distributed the vaccine worldwide, and especially here nationwide, and then boosters. And there's no data to see what this does to a 14-year-old girl who wants to get pregnant 6 to 10 years from now. I mean, there's no long-term safety data, especially when we're giving this to a population, a demographic of people who are not at risk of serious complications. It's just it's unbelievable to me. But again, the vaccine did seem to have a benefit in the older, sicker population. So on that point, I think I was wrong.
We got to get real. And here's another thing. I'm going to get a lot of kickback from this. I'm going to get a lot of comments. I can already read the comments that are going to happen in the below, and I welcome them. I'm going to hear, you're not even a real doctor. You're just a chiropractor. What do you stay in your own lane? Well, you know what my lane is? My lane is I've been helping people get healthy for 20 years, how to build their immune system and stay healthy. And the other part of my lane is a thing called the Constitution. And it gives me the right to say whatever I want to say whenever I want to say it. And it gives you the right to say what you want to say when you want to say it. This is still America for now. I'm worried that it may not be soon.
Boy, was I wrong about that one. Turns out the Constitution does not protect free speech, and you can be deplatformed, you could be censored, you could be outcast, you could be attacked for expressing your constitutional right to free speech. That's probably the scariest piece of this whole pandemic, and what it's shown us is if you don't agree with the mainstream narrative, if you don't follow in lockstep with the powers that be, big pharma, big government, big CDC, big FDA, the same administrations and the same organizations that flip-flop, changed, backpedaled, moved the goalposts. I mean, did all this ridiculous nonsense that they did over the course of these 2 years. But if you don't agree with them and what they say at the time, then you could be deplatformed or you could be taken off the air.
So if you disagree with me, put those comments below. Let's have a debate. Let's talk about it. It's so weird now that critical thinking and asking questions has become quacky conspiracy theory talk. That if I even ask questions as to why we're doing this and tanking the economy, then I'm not being sensitive to Aunt Betty.
Aunt Betty, I'm sorry. Yes, that was probably an insensitive comment there. But that still kind of is. If you even question masks or vaccines or the way we're handling all the lockdowns, then you're looked at as being insensitive, that you don't care about everybody else. Not to mention, all the other repercussions of running the economy completely into the ground and forcing people out of work and then paying people to stay home. We can't find people to work in restaurants and other jobs because it turns out when you pay people to stay home, they stay home. That's we're creating this weak entitled victim culture where everybody is just entitled to not have to do anything or not have to work, and it's just insanity. So sorry, Aunt Betty.
This is the real deal. We're allowed to talk about this stuff. We're allowed to look at data. We're allowed to do critical thinking. We all have a thing called a phone that has Google on it where we can get our own information. So,
well, Google, you can get some information, but you can't get it all. So again, if it doesn't fall in line with the mainstream narrative, then that information gets buried on page 97 of Google, or you get deplatformed. I got shadow banned by Facebook, and I got kicked off of YouTube, and turns out free speech is just not very free, and certainly is not tolerated very much anymore.
Leave your comments below. Hope everybody stays well, and I can't wait to hear the comments. God bless.
All right, that's my synopsis of my my video from April of 2020. I think there's some things that we got right, a lot of things that we got wrong, but again, it comes down to keeping ourselves healthy. If we would have used these last 2 years, we've had almost 2 years now where we could have been teaching people how to get healthy and to get into shape and get off sugar and eat healthy and reduce stress and sleep and improve the function of their nervous system and deal with mental health issues. Had we used this massive mega bullhorn and we would have promoted that message versus masks and vaccines and distancing, where would we be at as a country? And not just with COVID. I mean, we could have cut the overall body weight of the population by massive amounts. We could have cut the rates of diabetes and cancer and heart disease and multiple other conditions had we been teaching people how to get healthy. So that's the message I'm going to keep teaching is you got to get healthy. Nobody's going to save you. If there's one thing we've learned from this, or a couple things we've learned, is no, we can't trust the science. I'm not the science. Dr. Fauci, he's the science. I'm not the science. But it's my responsibility to take care of my health because nobody's going to save us. It's up to us. It's up to us to keep ourselves and our families healthy. And it starts with eating the right foods, exercising, proper mental health, keeping our nervous system healthy, stress. It's just about staying healthy. So leave your comments. I'd love to know your feedback and thoughts. Have a great day. God bless.